Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the dives I did in Monterey Bay in California. I'll be giving you a little bit of insight on how to get there and how to get something like this planned. So with that said, let's get started. All right, first things first is getting there. I flew into the Carmel Monterey Regional Airport. It's a really small airport, super easy to fly into, and really, really easy to fly out of. Lines for security are generally super, super low here. So no 3 hour arrival times prior to departures. I generally get there about an hour before departure and find that I always have plenty and plenty of time to sit around and wait anyway. So anyway, once there, if you plan on doing some charter diving, one dive shop that's really close to the airport is Aquarius Dive Shop. They have a very easy to navigate website for booking that charter. Keep in mind that they don't include tanks and weights like most shops in the area. So make sure that you make that reservation and head over to the shop in the morning prior to the charter starting. Another great shop is Bamboo Reef, also very close to the area and close to the marina where the boat will be docked that morning. Both shops will direct you over to the marina where the Beach Hopper 2 is waiting. Simply type in Beach Hopper 2 dive charters. It will take you to this building here. Get there early and park as close as you can to the boat ramp. Right where that pin is a ramp going down to that dock along that wall where the boat will be tied off to. Keep in mind that all the diving destinations, as you'll see here in a moment, are very close to the marina, so they prefer that you get all suited up in your dry suit prior to boarding the boat. Having said that, the water is cold in the area, generally around 50 to 55 degrees, at least in the wintertime when I was going there. So dry suit is definitely the way to go. However, a 7 mil wetsuit is doable if you have a pretty decent tolerance to cold. Moving on from that, if you are not doing any charters and you prefer to do some shore diving, which will save you a little bit of money, one very popular dive site is called the Breakwater at San Carlos Beach. They have a very spacious parking lot and the added benefit of a dive shop just in the south end of that parking lot. Again, get there early so that you can get as close as you can to these stairs so that you're able to get your gear out into the water without having to walk very far. A very popular dive plan from here is doing the breakwater to the aquarium water inlet. It is pretty far, about 3/4 of a mile, so having a DPV will let you cover a lot more ground a lot quicker to do this dive, though not necessarily a must because you can enter over at Maccabee Beach and cut that distance quite a bit. Maccabee Beach does have a parking lot just to the south of the entrance. However, there is a private business there, so I'm not 100% sure if that's public parking or not. I have seen signs that say parking, but double check that when you are there. Getting there early and parking on the street will probably be your best bet. However, check the signs and you'll be good to go. Another option for diving that's northwest of the aquarium is Lovers Point Beach. Not very many people use this, or at least that I noticed when I was there. However, it is a great option and an easier entrance than some of the beaches. The downside to this location, and probably why not many people dive here, is also the parking situation and the walk down to the beach. You have to cross that bike path there, down that slope, then some stairs, then another set of stairs, and then across the beach. It is a great location. Looks really cool. I did see a diver or two there when I was there back in December. However, you have to contend with that walk and the parking situation. There were signs there that stated there was a 2-hour limit, so parking on the street will likely be your best bet. Another great dive location for doing some shore diving is the Point Lobos State Reserve Park. It is about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on traffic, west of Lovers Point. It is a really, really cool area if you like hiking and taking pictures and doing some bird watching. This is a really cool area, not just for diving, but for diving. There is Whalers Cove, which has a lot of rich history. If you have time to check out the cabin there, you can't miss it as you're driving in. To get there, just type in the Point Lobos State Reserve parking and it will get you to this parking lot. Once there, park as close as possible to that little boat ramp there on the right. That will be your entrance point to get out into the cove. Once there, you'll swim north and then west once you get to the desired depth to check out the area. It's pretty simple navigation if you're good with a compass. If not, I would recommend going with some local divers. Check out some Facebook forums, some Facebook pages for the Monterey Bay divers area, and get connected with somebody there. With all of that being said, let's check out some of the sights and attractions that I saw while diving this area. The first couple dives I did in the Monterey Bay area were booked through Bamboo Reef. I booked it on their website, which, like Aquarius, is fairly easy to navigate. I booked my tanks and weights and went and picked them up that morning before heading over to the marina. So the first dive was just north of that marina. We probably weren't in the boat for more than about 5 or 10 minutes before reaching our destination. Pretty cool that we saw this seal taken off right about there, but I think I'm the only one that noticed it. Our second dive was a little bit further north from here, just off of Monterey Beach, in about 75, 80 feet of water. The first one was closer to about 45, 50 feet. You'll notice the topography here is a lot of rocks with those white, I don't know what those are, corals. Oh, look at that seal. And then here you'll notice that it's more sandy and you get the kelp growing up from there. It's really cool. This is probably why the seals were hanging out in this area, because the kelp offer a little bit of cover for them. They weren't sticking around a whole lot, but that one did do a quick flyby on me, which scared the hell out of me. But it was pretty much the highlight of these two dives. There's This guy giving me the side eye as he does a flyby. The next location that I want to talk about is on another trip that I did to Point Lobos. I happen to know someone in the area that mentioned diving here. He is the diver there in the screen with the DPV that has the red shroud. He dives this area a lot. He highly recommended diving here. We did have kind of a sporty outing as the conditions called for 12-foot swells and a lot of surge. So keep that in mind when going out. You can go onto windy.com and search the Monterey Bay area to get an update on the current and future conditions. We debated about going out that day. However, the entrance, being that it's in Whalers Cove, is pretty protected, so it made it possible for us to get out there. However, without DPVs, it would have been a nightmare. Here we're heading to what is known as Taco. It's basically a narrow area between two giant boulders or two big rock formations, and people love swimming through there. Here it is pretty cool. You'll notice right about here the surge starts trying to push us backwards, and the DPV was the only thing that prevented that from happening and pretty much made us look like we stopped moving. Once the surge went the other way, it shot us out like a cannonball. So we got through Taco, and then we head back the other way. The plan after this was to head over to another rock formation that was in the 180-foot or so range. However, I ended up having a pretty severe leak in my dry suit that turned out to be my inflator valve, and I ended up cutting the dive a little bit short. We ended up getting to about 170 feet, 175 I think was my max depth, before turning around, heading north back into Whalers Cove. This is hitting Taco from the other side and heading back the way we came in. There were a couple other divers who were also on DPVs, but apparently were unable to keep up with us, so we ended up catching back up to them on the way back. This is after leaving that area and heading east. It's a little bit northeast, back into the deeper section. Again, like I said, I ended up cutting the dive short, so we ended up turning around and heading back. All in all, it turned out to be about 72 minutes, something like that, with about 15 or so minutes of deco. A word of caution, however, if you are planning or do plan to dive here, I really do highly recommend you get a local to take you out the first time. They can explain to you some of the things that you should be aware of as far as the surge and currents here and the dangers of the surfacing with big swells. Because of all of these rock formations, there is a lot of wave action, a lot of whitecaps, and surfacing, especially on a day like this day that we were diving. Surfacing was not an option. You would have gotten beaten up pretty bad and most likely pushed and slammed into the rocks above. So do your homework, reach out to the local areas. There are some local dive clubs. Like I said, there is a Facebook Divers, Monterey Bay Divers page. There's a lot of people on there. A really good resource. Reach out to people and get something planned with someone who dives that area often. Is it absolutely necessary? No, but will definitely make the dive much more enjoyable. I followed John around pretty much the entire dive and wasn't too concerned about where I was and happened to enjoy the dive just a little bit more having a local dive guide with me. Quick side note with that, John is actually a friend of mine that did his advanced nitrox deco procedures class about 4 or 5 years ago, and we just happened to reconnect again because he happens to live in this area. It's a very cool dive. I hope to get back out there and do it again sometime soon. Definitely worth the trip. Here we are back in Whalers Cove in about 30 feet of water, trying to work out our 15 minutes of deco. At this point, I was absolutely frozen and could not wait to get out of the water. This was probably the only time ever that I could not wait to get out of the water. This is the path that we took north and then west out of Whalers Cove through Taco. We doubled back through Taco and then headed a little bit northeast down to about 175 feet. I'm not 100% sure exactly where we were, but that's about where we were before heading back into the cove and to the exit. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. The only other thing that I think you should know about this area, or at least Point Lobos, is that it is by reserve only. Go on their website. They only do about 2 months out and they do fill up fast. So I suggest you go get on there the first of the month for the following month that you plan on visiting and get signed up. It's about $25, I believe, for the reservation. And there won't be a whole lot of people there because they only allow about 10 divers or so. Hope this helped. Have fun. Hope to see you out there.